Sophie, did we go swimming? Do you say swimming? Is it fun? Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. All right, so train. That's right, train. Hopefully you guys can see that train right behind me. My daughter and I just finished swimming, and we're waiting for the bus. That is a train. But I thought I would talk about a question that was posed in one of the comments of my videos. And it was basically comparing two watches and asking my preference. And I love videos like this. I love questions like this, I should say. Taking two watches and thinking about them and comparing them. And the two watches in question, the GMT Master 2 16710 versus the Sea Dweller 16600. So these are steel sports Rolexes. They are both, I guess you could call them vintage models. The train, yes. Sorry, well, parenting and videoing at the same time. You're right. It is a train. It is a train. And these are vintage in the sense that you can't buy them anymore. And Rolex has started using ceramic in the bezel, and I'm sure that there are movement changes as well. Certainly there's a movement change with the 16710 going to the 116-710. There's a parachrome spring, and I want to say it's the 3186 movement for the current ones. You can get a 3186 movement GMT Master 2 pre-ceramic, but they're rare, the M series, and unless you find somebody who doesn't know what they have, you'll pay a premium for that. But the typical 16710s have just the 3185 movement sans parachrome spring. I can't tell you much about the Sea Dweller movement, but the current Sea Dweller is almost certainly going to have a better, more modern movement. Again, better, but in practice, I don't know that that's really going to. I don't really know that that's going to make much of a difference. My GMT Master 2 is probably a second off every couple days. But it doesn't have the parachrome spring, so magnetization is an issue. All right, so let's talk about these two vintage watches, the Sea Dweller and the GMT Master 2. Which would I go for? Well, before I tell you what I'd go for, and you could probably guess, let's talk about some differences and some pluses and minuses. Now, the bracelets are going to be the same. I guess one plus of the 16710 GMT Master 2 is there's a possibility to get a Jubilee bracelet. I mean, you can always source a Jubilee bracelet and put it on your Sea Dweller, but you're not going to be able to buy one from Rolex. And I don't think I'd ever put a Jubilee on a dive watch, on a sub, or on a Sea Dweller, because the Jubilee doesn't have the flip lock. Umbrella, yes, it's my umbrella. And it doesn't have a flip lock, and it's not something you want to dive with, a Jubilee bracelet. And because of that, I don't know, it's just watering down that whole dive watch thing. So even if I'm not diving in my sub, I would never put a Jubilee bracelet on it. I don't know why. Now, a Jubilee bracelet on the Explorer 2, I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool. It's kind of non-conformist. Rolex wouldn't approve, so that's kind of a fuck you to them. But it's all Rolex, and it's nothing aftermarket. And in fact, that's something that really appeals to me. But if you're looking for future options, you're not gonna be able to go through Rolex to get a Jubilee bracelet if you have the Sea Dweller. Bezel options are another thing, because you can change out the bezel insert. You can have somebody do it, or you can apparently do it yourself. I've never tried it. not interested in trying it really. But you've got those other colors to work with. Coke was he was asking about? Maybe, I'm not sure what he was asking about, but you know, there you got the Coke bezels, the red and black. You've got the Pepsi bezels, the which are the blue and red. Hold on, did I misspeak? Let's just clarify. Okay, the Coke bezels, the black and the red, the Pepsi bezels, or bezel inserts, I should say, which are the red and the blue, and then the straight up black, which doesn't have a cool name. I don't know, what is that? The licorice? I don't know. I'm not ever fond of the names of that tend to go with these watches. The exception is the Coke and the Pepsi. I don't know, for some reason I like those nicknames. And I like the root beer. I don't know. Give me sodas. Give me sodas. Superheroes, I could do without those. Anyway, let's talk a little bit more. Okay, so you're going to have that extra function with the GMT Master 2. And that extra function is a second time zone. The function, I guess, of the Sea Dweller is extreme waterproofness and a bezel that you can use to time things. Now, you can use your bezel in your GMT Master 2 to time things. In fact, due to the nature of those bezel inserts, which you know, you got the triangle, and then about at the 15-minute mark and the 45 mark, it divides into two different colors. That's if you don't have the black. You have the Pepsi or the Coke, and so you can time, you know, 15-minute intervals, and so you could actually dive with that watch, because I think if you're decompressing, you're looking at about a 15-minute time span to do that, and that's why the sub bezel insert markers go to, you know, to the minute up to 15 minutes, and then after that it's not. You know, could you use a GMT in that way? Sure, I guess. I mean, I think it'd be kind of cool to see somebody dive and decompress with a GMT. I mean, I'm pretty certain it could take it pressure wise. So the, you know, the functions are different, but you can sort of use the GMT in the same way. Now, you can't go to extreme depths like you can with the Sea Dweller, but that's sort of gratuitous. And in fact, the Sea Dweller is a cool watch, but it's the gratuitousness of that depth rating. It doesn't really appeal to me, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, if you're, does anybody dive to 4,000 meters? I don't know. Is that possible? Not sure. Will you die if that happens? If the answer is yes, then it doesn't make any sense to me. The sub always just makes a little bit more sense to me in that regard. But you know, that extra protection appeals to people, and I guess, you know, you get those bragging rights. They both have the date, but there's no Cyclops on the Sea Dweller, and that used to appeal to me in the sense that I wasn't a fan of the Cyclops, but I kind of like the Cyclops now, and if I have a date on my Rolex, I kind of want the Cyclops there too. Cyclops is interesting because Hans Wilsdorf started putting those on watches because his wife complained about the smallness of the date, so he started you know, putting the Cyclops on there, and so you can kind of thank Hans Wilsdorf's wife for that. It's a very Rolex-esque characteristic of a watch, and I've come to like it. Now, there is a small disadvantage. If you are like me and you like to wipe off your crystal, you know, blow your hot breath on, get a little condensation on there, and give it a good wiping down, get some fingerprints off of it. It's a lot easier if you don't have the Cyclops. And in fact, the last video that I posted of my Explorer 2, I was looking at that video, and the light hits it just right where you can see that the crystal is clean except around the Cyclops, because you know, if you're wiping off with your shirt, you really have to angle it with your finger or fingernail to get right in that crevice between the crystal and the Cyclops. And so it's if you're persnickety about getting your crystal really clean, it takes more effort. And with something like a no date sub or Oyster Perpetual no date or Sea Dweller, you just wipe it down, and that flat surface is kind of nice. So that's another thing to keep in mind. All right, well, I'm gonna think a little bit more about this, and I'll come back. My arm's killing me, and I see my bus on the way. Sophie, you want to say bye bye?
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Okay. All right. So the last part of this video. All right. So I think the viewer was asking about a Coke GMT versus the Sea Dweller. So color comes into play. I had another viewer and a friend actually who had a Pepsi, okay, a GMT Pepsi, and the colors were just a little too bright for this gentleman and started to grate on him. And I think the Coke is a little bit more subtle, but you still have that red. So in that sense, I think the Sea Dweller might be a better one watch. You know, it might be a little bit more versatile. Could you wear either with a suit? I think so. Could the red get in the way and clash? Possibly. So the Sea Dweller might be a better option in that case. Anyway, where would I go, or which one would I choose if I was on the fence about those two watches? Well, I'd go with the GMT, and I'd go with the GMT mainly because of the function, that extra time zone. I think it's kind of a cool thing to have a watch with 4 hands versus 3, you know. That's kind of special. They both have the date. You get that iconic date Cyclops window, which is kind of fun to use. It definitely makes checking the date a little bit more fun than on something like this. As far as collectability goes, that's a tough one. My guess would be that there are more GMTs out there than Sea Dwellers. So the Sea Dweller might be a better investment. But, you know, I've been thinking a lot about investments because that was another question that came in, and I don't want to make a separate video about that. So I'll just say that I think they're both pre-ceramic. I think both of them are good investments. Both are going to go up in the future, I think. But again, wait for that video before you start buying pre-ceramics, because there are other things that you need to take into account. You see I'm checking my watch a lot, and I'll tell you why in a second. Right now it's almost 1:05. But I think as far as the GMT or the Sea Dweller goes, I mean, they're both fantastic watches. And I don't think you could really make a wrong decision there. In fact, you know, if you had the money, I think both of those could work well together in a collection. Having that dive watch and having that GMT function, yeah, they're both similar enough looking that might not be a good idea. But as much as I love pre-ceramic steel Rolexes, that's something that I would do, is something that I have done. While I've got another minute, let me just talk about not the Sea Dweller, but the Deep Sea. Now, I remember seeing the Deep Sea I was at the Ampan Man Museum in Fukuoka, and there was a gentleman sitting right in front of me with a deep sea on, and I had on the sub. And the deep sea is an interesting watch. I mean, if you like big watches, I guess that's the way to go. Big, gratuitously big, in my opinion. Kind of garish. If you like that kind of thing, I think the deep sea is maybe the way to go. But I was shocked at how thick it was. And I mean, I used the word ungainly in another video, and boy, I mean, the deep sea was quite ungainly. But it was still kind of cool, but I much preferred my no-date sub, and the no-date sub was just so slim compared to it. Anyway, the video earlier, I was at the swimming pool with my daughter, and so here we are, and so I'm just gonna switch hands, and I want you to check out the time. All right, the magic time. Come on. Okay, there we go. And there, right there. Fuck you, phone. All right, well, anyway, there you had it. It is officially the moment when 2 years ago, the daughter I'm carrying right now, who's asleep, was born. Sophia's 2, and she turned officially 2 at 1:07 in the afternoon, March 16th. And this is it's a fitting watch to wear on her birthday, I think, because it is a Japanese watch, and at least 50% of her is Japanese, so perhaps a more fitting watch to wear on her birthday than a Swiss watch. But anyway, the truth was, I just had this watch going, and it's a good watch to take to the sports club because you can put it in your locker and not fret about it. Love that big Seiko on the clasp. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care, and happy birthday, Sophie. Oop. Do you want some tea? Do you want some tea?